story to share, and I am delighted to welcome her today. So please join me in giving a warm round of applause to Christin Niehus.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, who here likes dogs? Could you just raise your hand for a second? Okay, I have to speak to the other people afterwards. I swear it's going to make sense at the end, so stay with me. It's going the other way? Okay. Most expat stories that I hear start with them coming here for a few weeks or just to visit someone, and then they just basically never leave. And maybe that has been your experience. I definitely had a similar one. 4 years ago, I was coming here to Valencia, and I was laying in the grass in Turia Park at a yoga class that I almost wanted to cancel. And as I was laying there at the end of the session in Shavasana, and I'm sorry to all the yogis if I pronounce that wrong, I was opening my eyes and looking up, and I saw these beautiful pink sunset clouds and the Valencian parrots flying over my head and the palm trees. And for the first time in years, I felt this deep peace and gratitude in my chest. You have to know that I didn't come here to Valencia for a nice adventure or for a vacation. I came here broken. After horrible heartbreak, very toxic, and a lot of grief have given me some of the hardest years of my life, I just wanted to escape. And I heard about Valencia being so beautiful, so I booked the 5 weeks here with only one goal, to remember who I was. And as I was laying there under the sunset clouds, I felt this first crack of light coming back inside of me. And I didn't know it yet, but that moment would change everything for me. I didn't know that I would move here. I didn't know that after 3 days of arriving, I would meet the love of my life. I didn't know that I'd start a business here, or that an animal shelter would teach me more about belonging than any human ever could. All I knew in that moment was that I want more of this feeling. So today, I'm going to tell you the story of how I chased it and how it turned this city that I barely knew into my home. So the 5 weeks ended, and I flew back home, but I couldn't stop thinking about Valencia and the feeling that it gave me. And it didn't make sense to anyone back at home because I didn't have a job here, I didn't know anyone here, and I barely spoke any Spanish. But there was this feeling that I can't quite explain, and I'm sure of you that some of you can relate, that it just felt like home, and like I'm supposed to be here, and the universe was basically just waiting for me to act on that. So the year after, I did move here. And this time, I didn't come to heal. I came to finally enjoy the life that I had fought so hard to get back and to have a fresh start. And I remember that I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm just gonna take it slow, settle in, and fully focus on myself. Well, that plan lasted exactly 3 days, because on my 3rd day here, I was going to a language exchange event to improve my terrible Spanish, but instead, I met the love of my life. And we barely understood each other that first night, and I'm sure that's one of the reasons why it worked. But life was good, I was in love, I was living under the palm trees and close to the ocean. But there was another truth about moving abroad, and that was that I was working from home. And I always thought that being a digital nomad is the dream. And to be honest, I still think that. The freedom and the flexibility that comes with it, for me, is truly, doesn't have a price. But at that point, I wasn't that type of digital nomad that went to co-working spaces and cute cafes or events like this one. No, I went from my bed to my desk, back to my sofa, and back to my bed, basically. I see you can relate. Some evenings I would close my laptop and I realized that I haven't spoken to anyone all day. So there I was in this new city, and I barely left my house. And that also gave me a lot of time to think about something else that I was carrying that year. Just before I moved here to Valencia, my dog had passed away. And she has been with me since I was 11 years old. So she truly has been with me through everything. Through my graduation, my first apartment, the heartbreak, everything. And for the first time in my life, I was living without a dog, and my house just felt empty. So there I was, in the new city and the new life that I really hoped to have, but I missed my dog, and I missed feeling part of something. And I asked myself, is that what building a life abroad really looks like. And so on that same evening, I made a very small but impactful decision for me, and I Googled animal shelters here in Valencia. I texted one of them on Instagram and asked if they need volunteers, and of course, they did. So that became my week's anchor. Every week, I would go there and walk the dogs who have been abandoned and forgotten and given up on, the dogs who have every reason not to trust anyone anymore, but they still choose love every day. And I went there to feel helpful and to give my own love and my own time, but I know this sounds cheesy, but they gave me so much more back in return. The dogs give me so much joy. They gave me a reason to leave my house and travel through the city that I barely had explored at that point. The shelter gifted me some of my closest friends, and it also forced me to improve my Spanish, because when I started there as a volunteer, most of them were locals. So as the dogs were dragging us through the fields, I was just nodding along to conversation, basically, pretending that I understood what we're talking about by guessing the context. But I also learned a lot of new words, like sunset or careful, she pulls a lot. And with the time, I knew people's names, and they knew mine, and I felt like I was really part of something again. And then, of course, I fell in love again. Because you cannot go to the shelter and see the same dog week after week and feel her trust you and feel her anxiety there, and then just go home and forget about her. So I adopted her, my sweet angel Romina. And after a year of living without a dog, I felt like my home finally had a heartbeat again. And there at the shelter, I learned one of the most important lessons that Valencia has taught me until now, and it has stuck with me ever since. When I gave something was when the city really started to feel like mine and like I belonged here. And it also made me a lot more open and receptive to everything and everyone around me. And all of a sudden, I became more aware of the people building their own thing and starting a business and coming here to Valencia because they wanted a life that was different. And seeing that, and also having a partner that shows me every single day what self-belief really looks like, I was starting to ask myself, if they can, why not me? I had spent so many years working on and rebuilding my self-worth, and through that work, I have found what I can call my purpose, to empower other women to feel like they're enough and act from that place, in relationships, in work, in life. So I became a life coach. And I know it might be very out there to say, but I aspire to be the female Tony Robbins one day, impacting millions of lives around the world and inspiring a whole generation through school programs and university programs. But I got to start somewhere, right? So I started with one-on-one coaching. I hosted my first workshops here in Valencia, partnering up with women's communities. And eventually I took the leap and I went all in and I quit my job. And again, that has been one of the best decisions I've ever taken, and it feels so freeing and right. But like with everything, there are always two sides of the coin, and both are allowed to be there. But the other side is that being an entrepreneur can be pretty lonely. You have these big dreams and these big goals, and you're still sitting there at your desk staring at the white wall, basically. You don't have a team to brainstorm with or someone to ask if your ideas are good or if it's just too late and you're going crazy. But I was missing and craving the people who really get me because they were on the same journey and the people who understood me. And I wanted to build that circle, but I couldn't find it. So I built it. This year, I hosted my first retreat with women who had the same big goals and visions than me. And it was so inspiring and empowering, and I didn't want it to end after the 7 days. So it didn't, and it became a monthly community, our powerhouse evenings. Imagine a room full of women who are ambitious and who want to expand their mind and their limits, but they also don't want to burn out while doing that. Women who truly want to see each other win, support each other, and just exchange their ideas and experiences. And more than once, one of these women came up to me after our meetings and they told me, "Thank you. I didn't know how much I needed this." And every time I'm just thinking, I know, because I did too. And that's exactly why it exists. And since the other thing my heart couldn't let go of was the animal shelter, I decided to turn another idea that I had into reality. In March, I started Paws Presence, a nonprofit community which combines two things that for me have always been connected: doing something good for yourself and doing something good for others. So every month we host a Wellbeing event where people can pay what they can and what they want, and 100% of the proceeds go directly to the shelter animals that are so close to my heart. And last month, we had our first event with collaborating with a local community and also another small business, and we had our highest donation yet. And just being there and seeing all of these people, the locals and the expats and my friends and strangers, come together for the animals that none of them have even met, honestly was such a fulfilling feeling. And I cannot wait to see Paws Presence in cities around the world one day. We now also started organizing volunteering days where we as a whole group go to the shelter and walk the dogs there. And last time, in the crazy Valencian heat, the dogs had such a blast, just rolling around in the grass and splashing through the water. And we were just all there witnessing their joy and laughing like little children. And I always try to be very present in these moments and take it all in. And it was exactly there where I just stood there and thought, wow, 4 years ago, I was lying alone in the grass in Turia and looking up at these sunset clouds and feeling that first glimpse of peace. And then last month, I was standing there at the grass at the shelter with people who were strangers to me before, and I realized that that first feeling of peace has never left me. Valencia has truly poured so much into me, and there's a community here for everything. If it's yoga in the park or a run to the beach, if you're an entrepreneur or a creative. And I realized that people here actually want to get to know you. They're not just superficial, they want to know your story and they open up to you. But for me, the deepest form of belonging has never come from just joining an activity. It has come from building and from giving something. So if you're here tonight and there's something that you're missing or craving or dreaming about, I can guarantee you that someone else in the city is too. And maybe you're the one that's supposed to start it. And yeah, community for me truly is so much more than just a place where you find support or where you connect with other people. It's how we build a home in a place that we were not born. And just to come back to my question at the beginning for everyone who raised their hand that they like dogs and everyone else, we have our stand there with Paws Presence, so I would love to see you there. And yeah, join our next events. Thank you.